to find, again, common ground to bring us closer together with the Greater Bay Area. We share a lot of these cultural identity. I'm standing in front of you and talking about my past experiences and sharing with you, how this whole concept of Greater Bay Area come about. So my story with Macau and the Greater Bay Area started in 1994. At that point, Macau already, of course, is preparing towards its handover in 1999. And there was the welcoming of the Macau International Airport. Macau, now becoming a special administrative region, understood the importance of building for itself the capability of welcoming international travelers, as well as, of course, linking now back to China, and therefore now we have a much bigger market of over 1+ billion population. And so we need to enhance our connectivity. I was so lucky to have been designated as the corporate representative to represent our company's interests in the Macau International Airport, as well as in its first airline, Air Macau. So this picture, what is this all about? You see an airplane linking to the sea or the ferry. That's one of my first assignments as well, because also in 1995 I became the general manager of Shun Holdings. And my first assignment was to restructure also our own ferry business. And then that was the creation of a new joint venture together with China Travel. I was one of the earliest, in fact, probably I would think that we are the first ever created joint venture between a Hong Kong and Macau company with a SOE, state-owned enterprise, China Travel. We created, well, we did not create in the beginning, we were competitors. We actually were enemies in a way, but then we resolved it by creating a collaborative activity rather than to compete, because we all want with one common objective, how to create so that this region would come together rather than to go about basically competing with each other. Then we started thinking, well, now we have the airport in Macau. We also have, of course, an airport that is, almost 100 times that of Macau in Hong Kong, Chalakot. Is there a way to link the two? Is there a way to actually, instead of, again, like in the example of the ferries, always just, we becoming the small little, offshoot next to, in fact, distance-wise, you all know by now, because with the bridge, we are practically only 15 kilometers away between the two airports. How do we make best use and create synergies rather than, again, duplication, in resources? So I also came up with this idea. I said, why don't we connect the two airports? Everybody looked and said, why? Well, because maybe there would be people who would come internationally to Hong Kong, but then also would like to travel to Macau and other, parts of China via the ferries. Really? Yes, really. Why not? Because these people, when they come to Hong Kong now, as an SAR, they also would like to utilize Hong Kong. Beyond that, the geographic and the transportation infrastructure. In year 2000, we actually opened the Macau Tower, which you will see driving, across the harbor, which started off originally was meant to be a gift from my father, Dr. Stanley Ho, to our motherland, and was hoping that the actual handing over ceremony was going to be conducted there. Well, but then, of course, the construction work was a little bit more complicated. There was delay, and so finally we missed the 1999 date 20 years ago. Instead, though, it opened in 2000, and again, everybody looked at it and said, okay, so what do we now want to do with it? So I said, we definitely do not want to put in another casino. We want to make sure that Macau now embarks on a new journey, and we need to be visualizing with a long view, with a perspective. how does Macau become a player in this region? So even before the Greater Bay Area, we started thinking, so what is it? Tourism. We came up with the idea of simply driven from the mere fact that Macau needs its neighbors. Otherwise, just as a standalone destination, there's never going to be enough to create for ourselves the economies of scale. We understand that. So we need to work even harder than Hong Kong, for instance, to make sure that we work with Guangdong, we work with our neighboring ports and cities. So at Macau Tower, it was the first place we created the notion and concept of MICE, meetings, incentive, convention, and exhibitions. Again, very, very early on, a pioneering concept that people are saying, who would come to Macau for meetings? We are here now in Macau for meetings, so thank you very much for proving that this works. We've been able to bring more of the cultural aspects. 8 years ago, again under my auspice, I created the notion of an art space. People were a little bit, again, perplexed. Why do we art? You know, aren't we a place that people only know of about just the entertainment, just maybe the gaming attraction? I said, yes, but art is going to be there for the longer term, simply because we need to find, again, common ground to bring us closer together with the Greater Bay Area. We share a lot of these cultural identity. So all of us speak Cantonese, all of us share in on our, what we call the Cantonese, or even tracing back in history, Ling Nan culture. So my job has been now focusing more on exploring how do we make art and cultural development to become part of our now new future, and how do we utilize that to link with our neighbors within the Greater Bay Area. So in the future, we're going to work on what we call tourism plus concept. We need to not just focus on Macau's own development, but the whole development of the Greater Bay Area, and create a tourism hub that we can pull our resources together, and in the future, we sell our products together. Only then can long-range travelers decide to come and spend not just a day or two, but rather, hopefully, you know, a few days of their holiday time, and to explore the whole of the Guangdong province. I give you an example. Just 2 weeks ago, every year now in this property, we host a lion dance championship. Lion dance is actually one of the cultural aspects of the Lingnan culture. And through that, it can also be a means of bringing together the whole of the Greater Bay Area, especially instilling in the youth, our young people, a sense of belonging. We will work with Shenzhen, for instance, on building Macau as what we call smart city. We will work with Guangzhou, for instance, to leverage on their tourism figures, which is obviously very substantial, to help also make sure that we could both be able to capture more of the international travelers. And we can obviously also work with Hong Kong, which is of course the major cosmopolitan and the leading in trends and fashion. Thank you very much.